Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. On today and tomorrow's broadcast, we'll be discussing the issue where Christianity Today issued an editorial opinion regarding President Donald Trump's position in the impeachment process. My guest on today and tomorrow's broadcast will be Professor Stephen Cook, member of one of the oldest seminaries in the greater Washington, D.C. area.
Yes, that was... That really set up an opposition. But today, the two of the grandchildren of Billy Graham have come on and said they're proud of Mark Galli and Christianity Today. They think it was a brave stance. So, the Graham family is not of one opinion on this, which is very interesting.
It makes the point clear that we're all individuals, and that just because you have a name or that you're from a particular location doesn't necessarily mean that you will be synonymous with anyone or anything else that comes from that same place or presumably would have that same opinion, certainly.
Well, Paul, I think that's really, for me, where my passion is in all of this. It's not so much whether the partisan impeachment should have happened or should not have happened, but it's really more about the idea that Christians can't just simply represent one unified political loyalty to any party or person. That's a politicization of the church that robs it of its ability to be the conscience of the state. And I think this whole way that these 200 leaders slammed Christianity Today as if they were disloyal, as if Mark, the editor, was disloyal. It just seems to me that's not the way you want to operate as sort of a voting bloc or a partisan group of loyalists. You've got to maintain some critical distance and allow for differences of opinion among Christians.
That raises for me an interesting point, which is I've seen a lot in recent years comments from some members of the community as a whole in the marketplace of ideas, identifying religious people or Christian people or evangelical Christian people as if they were one monolithic voting and thought process block that can automatically be identified as an opponent or an enemy because.
Yeah, Paul, that really, really bothers me. And I think that's part of the motivation behind what Christianity Today did is it does no one any service. It doesn't do Christianity any service to lump all Christians as a unified, politically oriented group. It's unfair to the deep richness of theology and spirituality to pigeonhole it, and it's too easy for people then to say, the church is full of people interested in profit, P-R-O-F-I-T, not profits, P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S.
Right. Do you believe that Franklin Graham overstepped his bounds in attempting to decipher what he believes his father, who after all was not himself, and is no longer in the presence of man, but rather in the presence of God, to speak for his father in this matter when, in fact, on perhaps a major level, he didn't really have the means to actually be able to say with authoritativeness what another man would have said, even if it was his own dad?
Well, yeah, it is true that you have to hesitate to speak on behalf of those who have died. But in fairness to Franklin, I think Mark Galli did mention that Billy Graham did mention the name of Billy Graham in his article. So I don't fault Franklin for coming back, but again, I'm not. One does wonder what Billy Graham would have said. I guess no one really knows, and probably is not. We're not going to get too much mileage or traction on kind of trying to figure that out. It's sort of beyond recovery at this point.
Yeah. On a practical level, are you able to determine for your own satisfaction personally and perhaps offer as a possible line of reasoning or guidance to describe to listeners how they can be in the marketplace of ideas and be the leavening within the body on behalf of themselves as members of the body of Christ without becoming contaminated by the kind of politically contentious mess we're in at the current time?
Well, we certainly are in a big mess. It's hard not to see that. But I think what you've described, Paul, is exactly what the situation that we're in. Because of the polarization, because it's so contentious, people tend to be siloed. We're all in our little silos, and we don't even read carefully what the other side is saying. Theologically and spiritually, the fact that we're in the image of God, the Imago Dei, I think means that we should be able to find some common ground in which to be able to talk to each other. So much of our problem is caused by technology. The internet allows us to have only conversations who agree with us, to stay in our little silos and not interact. I think the best thing that we Christians can do is to try to talk to people who disagree with us with great respect, seeing in them the image of God, but being willing to hear their arguments, hoping that they will hear our arguments and establish some sort of common ground, some sort of reasonable public arena in which we can talk. If we don't do that, I think our society is in big trouble.
I don't want to necessarily offer myself as a paragon of example, for instance.
Okay.
Although, and I'll go where I'm leading to here, which is, like some other people, I have a Facebook account, and I get a lot of submissions from a lot of different people on my so-called Facebook wall that I have friended or they have friended me. And among the people that I receive commentary from every day are people who I frankly disagree with on a variety of different matters, including politics, but I have chosen not to unfriend them or to return harsh comments to their comments, because I consider it healthier for myself as a believer and as a person in the marketplace of ideas to open the door so that other people can express themselves, and I have an honest opportunity to read what they have to say and to think about it first before I decide whether to disagree with them or to say, I think you've got a point there that frankly hadn't occurred to me before.
Paul, that's incredibly laudable. I've got a really good friend who happens to be a very famous evangelical Bible scholar, Tremper Longman. He has a blog. He does the same thing. I was just reading it today as I got ready to talk to you. He's just written a book. It's going to come out in a month about evangelicalism and the Bible and politics, and he's posted a little bit on his Facebook, and all sorts of trolls and gremlins and goblins have posted all sorts of stuff. And, other people have said, Tremper, why don't you block them? Tremper, why don't you take them off or stop them? And no, the point is, as long as people aren't being hateful or doing harm to others, we should try to get everybody at the table that we can and create a space where Christians can legitimately disagree, but that we can establish some common ground. What in seminary we use a technical term, some epistemological common ground. We have to agree on what counts as an argument, what counts as logic. There's in so many of these silos on the internet, so many conspiracy theories and just wild thinking that little fact-checking could disprove. And if the society keeps getting into these alternate truths, these different narratives that are so incompatible with each other, it's really hard to think how the society can function.
This is the first of two broadcasts with Dr. Stephen L. Cook commenting on the controversy regarding Christianity Today's editorial position regarding President Donald Trump's impeachment. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of this station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.